Dice Tower Tonight, episode 38.
Weighing our options.
Welcome to Dice Tower Tonight, a video cast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On tonight's show, Eric is away, so one of my favorite people in the world, Suzanne, is taking over co-hosting duties.
Woo!
We'll discuss some games we've played recently. I'll be challenging Suze and the chat to a game. We'll discuss our thoughts on weight ratings for games, and we'll answer questions from the chat live. I'm Crystal Pisano, and joining me now is the Ann Perkins to my Leslie Knope, Suzanne Sheldon.
Oh my gosh. I love you, Crystal, so much. What an amazing reference. I will be your Anne any day.
I love waffles, and I'm very enthusiastic about life, so Leslie Knope is kind of my spirit animal.
Like, seriously, I can totally see that. And I think Anne was a great supporter, and
and they're just besties, so it's kind of perfect because I love you to death. So.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm really excited to be here. But enough about that. Can we just talk about what's on your head? Because that looks amazing.
My hair is a slightly different color. I figured, your co-host usually has very vibrant hair, and obviously I needed to, keep that trend going. I just wanted to dye it for a long time, and I finally just did it, and I did it last night, so it's still like fresh and pretty and all of that jazz. So yeah, I'm really digging it.
It completely suits you. That was Crystal. It was meant to be this way. You look amazing. It like your spirit is just coming out through the ends of your hair now. It's wild.
Woohoo! And hopefully it'll still be pretty vibrant for Dice Tower West, which is in 2 weeks. Soon.
I'm so excited.
2 weeks! I'm so excited. I cannot even tell you.
And I mean, first of all, you're pretty deep into the Dice Tower West action, and you've done MapleCon. I've never did MapleCon, the precursor, right? And obviously Dice Tower West is brand new. I've never been there. So is it just kind of like Dice Tower Con on the other side of the country?
Honestly, it feels very similar to regular Dice Tower Con. So I've been working behind the scenes at this convention in its previous iteration this will be the 4th year I've been helping with it. The very first year, Tim and Dave ran it for a single day with only 2 months notice. They just did it, like kind of spur of the moment. And then they realized that if they wanted to grow it, and especially if they wanted to be on social media, they were going to need some help. So I hopped on to the team to help them with those types of things. And yeah, this is technically the 5th year of the convention, first year for it being Dice Tower West, but we have always been primarily focused on being an open gaming convention. So we have publishers there, we have events going on, but our primary focus is making sure there are always plenty of tables for people to sit down and just play games.
Which is awesome. I actually have a couple of local friends who I just adore. They're my core play group, and they don't travel much to conventions, but because finally there's kind of a really board game oriented convention that's a little bit bigger on the West Coast or easier to get to. They're coming to Dice Tower West. And I was telling them that one of the things I love about Dice Tower is exactly what you said. Not just that it's really play oriented, but you can always find a game. There's always players wanted. There are always teachers wanted. Everybody the spirit is just very open and welcoming. And I've always loved that about Dice Tower Con in Florida. And so I'm excited to see that happen.
Yeah,
without having to lose 3 hours of time travel.
Right? I'm very excited about that as well. And I'll admit I'm a little biased, but I do think that the board gamers here in Las Vegas, like the gaming community here, is also really awesome. So I'm excited for a lot of people to come in and get to see and meet all of the local gamers that I've gotten to know so well over the past few years.
Sweet. I can't wait. I'm excited to see you in person.
Yep. And hopefully we'll see some of you all that are out in the chat at Dice Tower West as well. If you all have questions about Dice Tower West or anything like that, at the end of the show, we will be doing a short Q&A. So feel free to keep a hold of those because it'll be harder for us to scroll back up and find them later. But Suze, I would love to hear about a game that you've been playing recently.
So many games. Well, I will be glad to kind of tell you about a game, I guess, a little bit, because
Ooh.
I don't want to spoil anything, of course, right? I just I've always been a fan of just the escape room game genre in general, and bring me more. I'm excited about the shift that Time Stories is doing. I'm excited about the new Cosmos line that's coming out. But I got to play the Dead Man on the Orient Express, and I've always been a fan of the Exit series because I think the component destruction really opens up puzzle opportunity and different kind of puzzle types that you can't get where you're trying to reuse the game. And I know that some people don't like that. I know a lot of players are really uncomfortable. I don't, this is not a spoiler because it's literally like the first card you pull out of the game. People are uncomfortable cutting up their cards. You pull out a card, it has, snip, snip, snip. But it's just so fun. The puzzles are just, there's such a variety of them. And I will say, I've played a lot of the Exit series and I like a lot of them. This may be my new favorite. I
Ooh.
had a blast. And I think one of the things, now, see, Crystal, you and I, we actually have in some ways, we have fairly different tastes in games and kind of core games. And I am not a theme person. It's just not the core thing I'm looking for. But the theme in this game was so great compared to even some of the other Exit games. It really drove home the experience and really amplified everything. So it's rated like the 4 expert novice thingy. I don't think we found it that challenging, but we had a lot of fun with it. The puzzles felt diverse. I would say there were at least 4, oh my gosh, that's amazing moments when you figured out a puzzle. Those magic moments. So it had at least 4 of those for us. And so I would definitely say if you enjoy this type of game at all, this one, the Dead Man on Orient Express, was excellent. If you haven't loved all of them, depending on what you haven't enjoyed, I might recommend this one anyway, because it was rock solid. I had a great time with it. So can't show you anything else except this, but that's what I played. How about you, Crystal?
Well, that's awesome. And I would agree that the Exit series has been my favorite of the escape room like groupings. I've liked escape rooms from the other. Like, I think the only grouping that I've only played one of, and I was just not keen on it, was the Deckscape one. I played the London Deckscape and wasn't keen on that. But Exit is great, so that one's at the top of my list for sure. And what's funny is you and I did not discuss what games we were going to talk about in advance of tonight at the show. And I also can't show a whole lot because I have an escape room as well. So I think I showed this off on an episode maybe a month or 2 ago because I got it as a gift from my Secret Santa in my game group. And I had heard really good things about this one, especially Tom had raved about it. And so I was like, I definitely want to try it. This one is a little bigger and it's a little more expensive than like the Exit or the Unlock series games. I will not be spoiling anything. Just heads up, everything I'm about to show is stuff that you see as soon as you open the box. So I'm not going to show anything that's secretive. But like there's a lot of cool like plastic components in this one. These obviously had things on them to keep them closed at a certain point, but don't currently. And there's a lot of other neat physical components in this one. There's like a hint book and there's a solution book. So there's lots of help if in theory you're not doing well. But guess what? This one's not that hard, but it is delightful. I was blown away by how much fun this one was. I actually only played it with 2 people. Me and my friend Kathy played it together. And we were worried coming in because the box says 2 to 8. And we were like, oh no, is there going to be too much stuff for us to manage? And are we not going to be able to do it? And we were able to finish it within the time that the game allotted us without much issue at all. I think we used 1 hint, or no, we used 2 hints, and one of them wasn't helpful based on what we already knew. But just like you said, those like moments where you're like, oh my gosh, we had a bunch of those with this one. And it is novel in ways that some of the other escape room games aren't able to be because it has more physical components. Like even the Exit games, which are destroyable, get super creative, but it's still paper. So I feel like having the actual physical components kind of adds a level of immersion that the paper ones don't quite get to. And there were some very fun surprises in the midst of this play that I was not expecting, and just wonderful, wonderful. If you like escape room games, play the Orient Express one that Sue's recommended, and play this one. This is just so good. And this one was originally on Kickstarter, and this is the Mattel like public wide release that came after that. So there are actually puzzles that I didn't get to see apparently that were in the Kickstarter edition that aren't in the Mattel version. But it's still amazing. So I can't even imagine what the Kickstarter edition was like, because this is super great.
I totally agree. I've done that one. It's magical. And what I will point out, I think the only thing you didn't say that I think is worth mentioning, because I'm totally on board with everything, is it's inexpensive. For all of that plastic in it. So you received it as a gift. I bought it. For all the plastic that's in there, it was like $25 or $20.
That's not bad at all.
Right, for the fun and all the plastic, like all the bits and bobs, it was a good deal. So I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. And I think you could definitely play this with more people. There were enough things that like we could have disseminated puzzles.
I think I played it with 5.
Yeah, like there are enough things to go around at any given moment that there won't be somebody sitting there twiddling their thumbs. But I think my friend Kathy and I are big puzzle solvers in general. So we enjoyed getting to solve all of them ourselves, kind of. I think we enjoyed that, but you could definitely play this with more. 8 feels like it would be a bit much. But that's the case, I think, with any of these escape room games. Like when you get to a certain size group, people just can't see what's going on.
Totally. And that's definitely a downside of unlock and exit. Just the size of things sometimes gets a little small.
For sure.
Do you have time for one more? Because I
absolutely
games, Crystal. So
I would love to hear about another one.
All right. So next up, I want to talk about a game called Vadorn Gardens. So
it's so cute.
It's so cute, right? Check out that art. Oh hello, right? Adorable and beautiful and awesome and wonderful. So this is a little game that it's got King Domino style drafting. So what you're going to do is you have cards, square cards, and you'll see that they have different features on them. So they look, a lot of games have this kind of approach right now, where they have different terrain types and different icons on them and things like this. So this is very similar, but you're going to lay them out in 2 rows. You're going to draft one, and then you're going to play it in your tableau. So some of the things that set Vadorn Gardens apart is that the tableau building is actually fairly restrictive. So when you place them down, the second one can only overlap the far right row at all. Now you can offset it, but you can't ever go in deeper, and you can't ever tuck. So you have to lay it over, and you're always laying it over on the far row, and then you place it. And then the next one follows the same rule. You can offset it, and you have a height limit, like you can't go more than 5 total squares high, that kind. So you're going to be drafting King Domino style, taking, planning ahead, grabbing that, things like that. Now there's also these kinds of cards right here, and they determine what cards you're allowed to play. So you're drafting cards, but the cards themselves have those little matching icons up on top. And so those icons have to match the current active symbol card in play. So if you have to play a fire card, but your card doesn't have a fire symbol, you're in trouble. So you have to plan ahead for that too. And you have visibility to what's coming, so you can plan ahead. So you're laying these cards out, and ultimately it's very similar to a lot of games that have this kind of setup, where you're trying to connect and create terrain sections. And there are different little icons that are adorable and beautiful, that if you get a certain number in a connected area, you score a certain amount of points. There are little treasure icons, or little, they're meeples. They're actually really great, beautiful, tiny meeples that are custom built that you can earn with some of these squares. And there are there are extra scoring goals, so that are mixed up game to game. So it adds a little bit of variety. Maybe you're trying to get 5 unique icons in a scoring section, or 2 pairs and 2 separate icon sections, and that kind of thing. So you're just drafting, building it out. It's time through the deck, play out the deck, and then count up your points. It is the King Domino style draft in this particular game works wonderfully. And I find that restrictive tableau building great. It looks like it's light. It looks like it's cute, which it is cute, but it actually twists your brain up. You get like, this restriction ends up becoming quite tense and quite interesting as you go. Planning ahead actually makes you think a little bit as you're going. So Vadorn Gardens, I am really enjoying. It is thinkier than you would think when you get here, but I still feel like it's approachable. Just don't look at it and go, oh, it's like, just throw it's like King Domino. I feel like this is a little twistier and a little more tense than something like a King Domino, and I'm absolutely loving it right now. So that is this one, Vidoran Gardens.
That's awesome. I actually hadn't heard about that one at all, and it sounds really interesting. And I'm a big King Domino fan, so it feels like something that would be right up my alley.
Excellent.
All right. So a few weeks ago on Twitter, I asked you a question. I was going to order Doppelt So Clever, the sequel to Ganz Schon Clever from German Amazon. I know that Stronghold Games is bringing it to America in May. I am not always a patient person. So I was like, well, I'm ordering it. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to place an order from German Amazon, I should see what else I should order. And I know that Suze will know what I should order, for at least in the vein of roll and write games, because I love them probably almost as much as you. I would definitely never say as much, but like pretty close. I don't think I've tried one that I haven't liked yet. So obviously either I need to play more or I like all of them. But you had recommended this game to me.
Yay!
Blocks, which is basically Tetris, the roll and write game. It is a game where you only have 2 dice. So that's kind of nice. Like a lot of roll and write games have a lot of dice, and this only has 2. And they have little tetramino. Oh gosh, my nails look horrific. I need to get my nails done. I worked on the hair. We're not. Oh gosh, see if I can get it to focus. Come on, focus.
Do that makeup tutorial thing where you put your palm behind
Oh
it.
yeah, right. It's not working at all. I'm clearly not a beauty guru. You can kind of see them, and there's different tetraminos on the different sides. You can see them. Whatever, it's fine. You on your turn, you roll the dice, and then the active player gets to choose one of the dice, and they mark that tetramino onto their pad, starting at the bottom, and then going up eventually, just like in Tetris. And all the other players can choose to use the same die, but with a penalty, or they can use the other die with no penalty. And what you're trying to do is those tetraminos all have X's and circles on them. And you're trying to get the circles to land where the numbers are on your pad. So you're trying to place these tetraminos intelligently. You're also trying to make sure you mark off everything in the colored rows, which will score you bonus points at the end of the game, as noted down here. But every time that you cause a gap to happen, you don't get to do the thing that you do in Tetris, where you have like drop something down and then slide it over real quick. You don't get to do that. And gaps will cause you negative points at the end, as well as any squares that you haven't put something in at the end of the game. So once 2 or more players cannot write a piece into their sheet, the game will end. And then you add up all of the numbers that you've successfully put a circle around instead of an X. If for all the rows that you've completed, you get points for those based on whether you were the first to complete them or someone later. And then you subtract all of the gaps and spaces you didn't fill in, and you get a final score. It's deceptively simple looking and really hard to do well. Like I was like, oh yeah, this will be easy. And then all of a sudden I was like, all of these options are bad. Oh no, this is that moment in Tetris where like you've got the perfect spots for like 3 different shapes and the other shape shows up at the top and you're like, no. So I love it. I think this was a great recommendation. I am so happy that you told me about this one. It came out at Essen this past year, right? Yep. Yeah. So I have no idea. Do you have any idea if this is coming to the States?
I don't have any idea. I will say that Norris Spiel's other games don't have a tradition of making it over here, which is a bummer. On the other hand, this is Klaus-Jürgen Ried, the designer of Carcassonne. So maybe that might be a little extra because it's so good. It would be perfect. Like you could put this in a more mass market. You could put that on the shelves of Target, right? And your typical family could pick it up and really have fun with it. So, but like you ordered it, you can always get it on Amazon, and it's only like €8.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely, as far as like getting something from overseas goes, it's definitely not that expensive. And that's like, I definitely was like, oh, I'm going to get a few things in that order so I can get the free shipping from Amazon Prime, because you can still, or no, I don't remember if I got free shipping or not, but it wasn't horrible. So that is Blocks, the Tetris roll and write game. That is definitely one of my new favorites.
Yay.
All right, so that's some games we've been playing recently. I think it's time for us to play a game, Suze. Do you want to play a game with the chat?
Oh my gosh, I have been. I admit, you told me this was coming. I've been a little nervous about it.
Okay, so I actually what's funny though is if it goes poorly, we can always just blame it on the chat because
yes.
if you don't get the answers right, that means they didn't provide you with good clues. So, for those of you who have not played our video version of Just One before, this is a game where the chat is going to be helping Suze figure out the clues that I have set for her. So, not right now, but in a little bit, Suze is going to make sure she can't see me and my video feed because I'm going to be holding things up to the camera for the chat and make sure she's not looking at the chat. I'm going to hold up a word, and then the chat is going to have a chance to provide Suze one-word clues that correspond with the word I showed you. But the trick is, if any words match, they will not be read to Suze at all. So in theory, if the word you were trying to get Suze to guess was blue, and 3 people typed in the word Smurf, then all 3 of those clues would be eliminated and she wouldn't get to hear any of them. So you want to come up with clues that are somewhat unique, but will still help point Suze in the right direction. And for the purposes of this game, I will accept the first 6 answers that are typed into the chat. When you're typing in an answer to submit for the game, please put it in all caps. Do not put all of your chat in all caps, but for the purposes of this game, it's easier for me to spot them. If you place them in all caps, I am actually going to pop the chat out so I can see things a little more.
I have the chat popped out, so now is the time when I hide the chat, so I'm not cheating, right?
There you go. Yep. All right. So, and can you see me anymore, Suze? Or?
I can see you. I popped the chat out, so it's hidden over here.
Okay, well, you have to be able to not see me as well.
Oh, because you have the
yep, I'm going to be showing the chat the clues.
Okay,
and it's weird because you're going to be talking to nobody. Every time we do this, it's always weird for Eric and I. But yeah.
Okay, I'm hiding you. Oh, I don't get to see her anymore. Okay, bye.
We'll come back in just a few minutes. It's not too bad. So I have, let's see, I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 10 clues. We'll see how many we can get through.
Oh, dang, girl, that's a lot.
Yeah, well, we don't necessarily need all of them, but I always like to over prepare. So I'm going to hold up the first word. So chat, be ready. The first 6 all caps single word clues that I see are going to be what is read to Suze unless there are duplicates. Your first word is this. So chat has seen it. There is about a 20 to 30 second delay. So I get to riff a little bit while the chat is putting in their clues. We have 3 so far. That is 4, 5, 6. All right. We have 6 words and they are all, nope, they're not all unique. We've got 1 duplicate, but that's not too bad. So that means you're going to get 4 clues.
Okay.
So your clues are night, spelled K-N-I-G-H-T.
Thank you.
Knave, K-N-A-V-E. Checkers, and Fisher, spelled F-I-S-C-H-E-R. So night, knave, checkers, and Fisher.
Checkers and Fisher. That makes me think of Fisher Stevens. I don't know why. Night, knave. Oh no, I'm gonna be really bad at this game now.
Totally cool.
Night, knave.
One of the best clues got eliminated by the 2 people who typed it in.
Night, knave, checkers, and Fisher. So it's got to be chess.
Ding, 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 ding. It's chess.
Yay, Bobby Fischer. Got it.
Bobby Fischer. That was a good clue. I like that one. That was very smart. All right.
The name threw me off because I don't.
Yeah, I guess they were trying to come up with another word for night, or maybe there's something related to chess that I'm not familiar with. All right, so I'm putting the next word up. Chat, get ready. Here is your next word. Come up with some good clues. I've picked some kind of hard words. I think the chat is going to have to dig deep to get you some good clues for some of these, but I have faith in them. I think that they can do it. Let's see here. And we've got 6 clues, all unique. You're getting all 6, Suze.
Woo! Good job, chat.
Right. Good job, chat. All right. So your 6 clues are lard, peanut, Dean, D-E-A-N, yellow, churn, and spread.
Is
So
that like a Paula Deen reference?
I think it might be.
So lard,
Peanut,
peanut,
Dean, yellow, churn, and spread.
spread. Moving right along. I'm gonna say butter.
It's butter. Dean is a very like I can't even. That's fun fact. I work as a marketing copywriter, and the company I used to work for used to be partnered with Paula Deen back before all the drama. And I wrote headlines for some of our billboards across the country. And for one of her restaurants, I came up with a billboard headline. It never actually got into production because of all the drama. I don't know if they were going to put it up, but the headline with her restaurant logo said, "Anything you can do, I can do butter." And I was very proud of myself.
Oh, Crystal.
Yeah.
You're such a character.
I mean, this is why I'm a copywriter. So, all right, chat. Number 3. Susan's 2 for 2. Let's see if we can go for the next one. This is your third word. All right, let's see if they can come up with some clues.
Do 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 do.
Okay, this is like amazing. Okay, so okay. Oh, everybody's putting in words. Here we go. The first 6, there are 2 duplicates. So that means you're going to get 4 clues. But some of these clues might actually be helpful with each other, which is kind of interesting. So your first clue is easy. Your second clue is bake.
Okay.
Your third clue is mitt, M-I-T-T. And your fourth clue is cook.
I'm going to go with oven.
It's an oven. I have no idea. Like, they literally, I'm reading them to you in the order they came in. I'm not like putting them together intentionally. And that is amazing because you know they're lightning typing and hitting enter without looking at stuff.
Totally. So, and I mean, yeah, I was in that. I was with you, chat. I think, am I 3 for 3?
You're 3 for 3, Suze.
Chat, we're, yes.
You and the chat.
Right.
Legit. All right, we're going to go for word number 4. Chat. This one, there's a couple directions the chat could go with this. I'm very curious to see what happens. This one I made intentionally either potentially hard or very easy, depending on what words they pick. Oh no, we've got some duplicates. Oh no, it's not going to be great. Okay, so let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3 of those 6 are the same word. So
I'm only gonna get 3.
You're gonna get 3. This one's probably
Chat and I. We're like soul siblings here. We got it.
I have faith in you. So your 3 clues are repair, blueberry, and stone. It's funny because individually these are all good clues, but together I think they actually work against each other.
I'm sorry. Repair, blueberry,
and stone. You're gonna laugh.
It's not just me, right? This is
no. This is ridiculous. Like I picked a word that intentionally has multiple meanings, and they've run the gamut here. So
it's your fault, Crystal.
It is technically my fault.
Repair, blueberry, stone. Like stone,
I would not get it from those
kettle.
Clues.
Blueberry, like Charlie. Is there a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory thing going on here? Stone, repair, like repairing the glass elevator with the blueberry girl.
What's funny is if the 7th clue had come into play, I think it would have tipped it over for you. But though somebody was just a teeny bit too slow.
Slow chat is slow. It's the lag. And it's just one. So
just one. This was a hard one.
I'm so sorry. This is stone blueberry. I honestly haven't. So pie.
Okay, well, you're in the right ballpark because it's cobbler.
Cobbler.
Yeah, so repair, I imagine, was intended to be
Oh, like
shoes.
shoe
The word
cobbler.
that got eliminated was peach. So if you had both peach and blueberry, maybe, but and then shoes was the word that was 7th in the list. So
Yeah, that was
I made that hard intentionally. That's
all
okay.
good streaks must end.
All right, I've got another hard one. We'll see. But you're 3 for 1. You're doing awesome. So
that's right. Thanks, pep talk.
Yeah. All right, chat. Your next word is on the screen. Go ahead and put some clues in the chat. Oh, yeah. Somebody said that they put repair in there in hopes that there would be a shoe companion clue. That does make a lot of sense. I like it a lot.
I love Just One. It's such a great game.
I honestly, I'm a huge fan of it. All right. So we've got remember, folks, put your clues in all caps. Those are the ones that I am counting just because it's easier for me to see them. So we've got 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all caps words, and they are all unique. Okay. I can see where the chat's going here. All right. So your 6 clues are cleaning, oil, acidic, fries, cider, and salt.
Okay, is it legal if I type this down in notes?
Yes.
Or no?
Yeah,
okay.
Oh, sure.
So,
whatever.
Okay,
cleaning, oil, acidic, fries, cider, and salt. Again, this is a hard one, admittedly.
Cleaning, oil, acidic, cider, vinegar.
You got it. It's vinegar. Excellent. And those are some great clues.
Those are great clues because
really good.
Yeah, because oil and vinegar is like my go-to salad dressing, and like cider vinegar, I'm on board with all of this. So it was actually the salt and the fries that were kind of throwing me off, but I got you. Good job, chat.
All right. So we're gonna we'll do 2 more.
Okay.
So the next
what are we at? Are we at 4 and 1?
4 and 1. You've won this game handily. Woo! Like you're just the best, basically. So all right, your next word is on the screen, chat. I'm wondering if anyone has picked up anything based on these words yet. If anyone has noticed anything about these clues, I guess we'll have to find out.
Oh, like there's a meta puzzle. Did you create a meta puzzle?
I'm not a puzzle per se, but a theme, perhaps.
Oh wait, I'm feeling it. Wait a minute. I'm now.
I had to. I couldn't resist. Oh my. Okay, let's go down and find the chat. All right, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they are all unique. So your 6 clues are boy, cookie, pizza. Oh, shoot. I shouldn't have read that one. That one, there was a duplicate. Well, whatever. You got it anyway. I don't care. You're only 5 clues, but one of them was technically a duplicate.
Okay.
Nut and play.
Boy, nut, play.
Pizza and cookie. And technically I should not have read cookie to you, but I don't think that will be the tipping point, so it'll be fine.
Boy, nut, play. I'm in a mental loop right now. Boy. All right. Cookie. Boy, nut, play, cookie, pizza. Pizza boy. Pizza delivery nut? Nut delivery?
I will say, I think one of these words is potentially going to throw you off. Which is great about Just One. Is like all it takes is one person to put a clue in that doesn't quite fit with the others. And
it takes just one person.
Just one.
Boy, nut, play.
Oh, never mind. I get it now. It's very smart, and I just hadn't realized it. Never mind. They're all wonderful.
Okay.
It's not wonderful. Like, oh, that's so good. I'm very proud of the chat.
Boy nut play, pizza cookie. Boy nut play, pizza cookie, chocolate, no chocolate pizza, dessert, dessert pizza, dessert cookie, play dessert, nut dessert, boy dessert. Mm. Okay, I'm gonna go with not dessert.
I was just laughing at the phrase "boy dessert" because that's.
I just gotta wrap this up. Okay, wait a minute. You tipped me off. There's a meta thing going on. So I had cobbler, vinegar. Well, wait a minute. What does cobbler and vinegar have to do with each other? What was the other ones? What were my other words?
Your other words so far have been oven, butter, and chess.
Oh, yeah. I love you. Okay, well, wait a minute. Okay, so then filling boy, crust boy, crusty boy, crusty nut. Let's not do crusty nut. Pizza crust, cookie crust, crusty cookie, crusty play.
You're so close. I can feel
it. Slice, boy slice. No boy slices.
He's a real slice.
Yeah. Oh. All right. No, but nut slice, like a nut loaf. Do you know what nut loaf is? Nut loaf exists. You should be aware of this.
Is it like fruitcake?
It is.
Yeah.
Play loaf, cookie dough, pizza dough, Play-Doh, nut dough, nut dough, boy dough, cookie crust, pizza crust, crusty play. I'm
gonna need an answer soon.
Okay, I'm sorry. Slice.
Oh my gosh, you were so close. You almost had it. It was dough.
No.
The problem is you have to flip the order. So it's dough, nut, and dough boy. The nut one is the one that I didn't get right away either. And then I was like, oh, wait. Oh my gosh.
This game. Okay.
Awesome job. All right, so last word, chat. This is the last one. Suze is 4-2, so she's winning no matter what. I
definitely picked up on the theme, though.
So this is your last word, chat. Let's see what you can give us for this one. Oh my gosh, I know. And you said dough, and I was like, oh, she's gonna get there. She's gonna get there. And you were just like, yeah, flipping them is, I think, hard in your brain to like reverse the order when you're thinking of things as a theme. So, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 all caps words. I've got them. And
so if this one is slice, it'll be hilarious.
What's funny is actually crust is one of the words that I have, but am not using. So you were getting there. But okay, so let me make sure for reals that these are not duplicates. They're not going to cheat. All right, your words are core, tree, IEYE, pie, Macintosh, and doctor.
Okay, who did Macintosh? Yeah, I'm just double checking. Crystal, you know who you are?
Who am I, Suze?
You are the apple of my eye.
Oh, yay, it's apple!
Yeah! Woo! Honestly, it was the Macintosh that was like, oh, hey now.
Yeah, if somebody had like typed like Fuji in there or something like that. So I imagine the chat is probably a little confused about a couple of these words because I dug real deep and you can turn everything back on. So feel free to open chat, pull me back up, whatever. But I imagine that the words chess and vinegar are probably a little bit confusing for people in the chat who have figured out the theme. Do you want to spread a little pie love to the people in chat?
Oh, well, I will just tell you, if you've not had a vinegar pie, oh, they are amazing. In fact, in Ohio, I had this lemon vinegar pie that was delicious. Vinegar pie ends up being just like a custardy pie. It's practically like a vanilla custard if you don't add extra flavor. And so if you haven't had vinegar pie, highly recommend. And chess pie, I think more people know chess pie, right?
I think so, but I think by name, people might not like, especially since obviously we're a group of gamers. I was hoping that people would immediately think of the game and not a type of pie. And that's why I put that one first, too.
Yeah, gotcha. That was lovely. Oh my goodness. And so how many was that?
So you got 5 out of 7. That's awesome.
Yeah, woo! That's
Awesome.
awesome.
Congratulations to Suze and chat on a
Yes,
really
well
awesome
done,
game.
team.
Yeah,
Thank
you guys
you.
gave some great clues. And the nut one, I was like, why did somebody put nut in the chat? I was like, oh, donut.
I was like, yeah, boy and nut threw me. Well, actually, I think play. Anyway, that was
Right.
awesome.
And that's what's great. They all make sense. But then
When you know.
when you put them together, it's harder. All right, so congratulations to everybody. We are going to move on to our thematic discussion for the episode. We actually kind of reached back a few weeks into an episode of the Dice Tower podcast, and we wanted to talk about something that Eric and Tom discussed in the Q&A segment of the recent Dice Tower podcast that was about their favorite games from 2004, so the 15 years ago episode. In that Q&A, there was someone who talked about the fact that Mandy had referenced a game's weight in her recent discussion of a game, and they asked Tom and Eric, how do you, or why don't you use the game weight stats when discussing games? And Tom had some very strong opinions on the matter.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, and I quote, that, first off, he said, this is only my personal opinion. And then he said, it is the most useless statistic on Board Game Geek because it doesn't have any feeling to a person. And Board Game Geek is ranked by gamers. And I think while he's a little bit extreme about maybe it being the most useless stat, he actually touched on some things that I think are a little bit true there.
Yeah, I listened to that as well. And I think that it is largely about relativity. But, and this goes into, I don't want to drag us into a rat hole, but I would say it also goes for ratings of games in some ways. It's all contextual and based on, I hear there's somebody that goes the opposite and they rank their games from 1 to 10, like their number 1 favorite.
Oh.
And that's how they use their BGG because it's their BGG and they know what it means. So I think weight is very deceptive. And I've gotten feedback from this. Tom has told me when I was talking to him about a game that I tried and I said, oh, well, it's like a medium-ish game. And Tom's like, it's a heavy game, Suzanne. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, I mean, I think what's more important is when and why does the discussion about weight, game weight, matter? Like, when is it important? And it feels like it's important. It feels like it's important when you're talking to people who aren't in the hobby, right?
Yeah.
How do you explain this? And I think people and gamers and as podcasters, as content creators, we get this criticism too. It's like you're talking to yourself. You're using terminology. What is worker placement? What is a king domino draft? I just did that. If you don't have that context, you're like, what the heck is she talking about?
What is king making? What is, any of the terms that we use?
In game weight is the same thing.
Yeah, it means nothing. If I went to somebody like an odd on the street and I said, do you know what the weight of a board game is? They would say how much it weighs? Probably.
Yeah. So how do we break down weight into a more, and you can absolutely disagree. I think because when we're talking to each other, we can have the discussion. Like Crystal, Vidoran Gardens, I think it's heavier than King Domino and Honshu, but it's lighter than Underwater Cities, right? You're like, oh, okay. Right? Because you have those points of context. If we're talking to somebody that doesn't understand, how do you break down game weight in a way that is functional and usable and helpful to somebody who may not have the same points of reference and the same terminology? And I was thinking about this a little bit, and I'm interested in your point of view too, is like, this game's going to take you 45 minutes to play. This game, you're going to spend 5 minutes each turn thinking about what you want to do. How much time are you putting to thinking? How much time are you going to play overall? How many different things do you have to keep track of? Those seem to be ways that we could break down the weight discussion for people who aren't necessarily in the lingo that might be useful. I don't know. Or is that not the right way to even think about weight?
I mean, it's an interesting discussion because is the weight statistic only helpful because the people who are rating the weight of games care about it. Like, I don't think, I think to Tom's point, in the grand scheme of life, or even in just gaming as a larger thing, video games, board games, everything else, it is pretty useless to some degree. But having a point of reference that's familiar for people can be more beneficial. So I would agree that you don't want to say, well, it's lighter than X, Y, and Z and heavier than, D, because if they don't know what those games are, then that doesn't give them any helpful information. But I think, to your point, pointing out specific factors in the game that somebody might care about is a better way of explaining something to someone. And also, if you're talking to somebody who's not in the hobby, asking them a couple of games that they're already familiar with, where they definitely do have a point of comparison, and then trying to liken this game to the ones that they mentioned. So if they say, oh, I've played Catan a bunch of times, then you can use Catan as a point of reference. Like, oh, do you know how complex Catan was the first time you played it? This might be like twice as complex as that the first time you play it. And I think that kind of gives people, so as long as you're using things that are familiar, the point of reference is helpful. But honestly, I think for hardcore gamers, it feels like the numerical scale is the most helpful only in its extremes. So I think if something's rated between like a 1 and a 2, that is super helpful information for me as a gamer. Like, well, it's not super helpful. It's helpful. If I look and see it's between a 1 and a 2, for me as a hobby gamer, I know what that means mostly. Likewise, if I see something that's between a 4 and a 5, I also generally know what that means because I know how hobby gamers perceive games. But anything in the middle, I think Tom in the episode actually said, show me a person that can describe the difference between a 2.1 and a 2.4.
Yep.
And you can't. Like, that's not something that you, like, if you pulled out two games and said this one's a 2.1 and this one's a 2.4, and you ask somebody to like actually tell you why, I don't think most people could do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think now if you're in, right, you understand when you look at a weight rating, what that means to you, because you've used Board Game Geek enough and you understand in general, after you've played enough games, you look at it, you played this game, you looked at it, if you looked at its weight rating, oh, that's a 3.2. Okay, I played this game. Board Game Geek says it's a 3.2. And then you play another game. Oh, this Board Game Geek says this is a 2.0. Okay, I played this game. Yeah, no, it felt like it was harder than that and closer to the 3.2 I just played, right? So you get, once you have enough experience under your belt, the rating, I actually think on Board Game Geek can be very functional for you as an individual once you understand the context of the setting and your relationship to it. So again, that relational relativity. So it's not that the Board Game Geek rating doesn't add value, even outside of like a similar founding, a direct game comparison. But unless you have enough experience, it is fairly meaningless.
Right, which is why it's funny, because then we come back around to the majority of people that are using Board Game Geek are hobby gamers. So therefore, the stat existing on Board Game Geek does have some value. Like, now I actually think it would be really neat if Board Game Geek at a certain point became more of a resource for non-hobby gamers, truthfully. Like, I think it would be really cool if average people who are, playing games with their family on the weekends or whatever else and don't know about board game conventions or how many games are coming out every year or that Essen Spiel even exists, if they knew about Board Game Geek, that would be really cool. But I think some of the things on Board Game Geek would theoretically need to change to make it more useful to them.
I totally, I would love that. I guess I'm thinking in terms of using Board Game Geek, what are the other statistics? Because it's interesting, right? Board Game Geek has a certain user interface and certain items are presented above the fold and certain items aren't. You have to click to reveal them and things like that. And game weight is something that's up right up there. But what other useful data points are possible to collect in Board Game Geek that may add more value with less context? So we know like they have time, like average play time, best with X number of players, things like that.
I love those. Those are super helpful for me.
I love the best with. That's one of the stats I use most often. And weight, what's interesting to me, and maybe I'm totally not understanding how the database works, but isn't weight something you just input? Like you input your rating, oh, this is a 7. Weight, you say, this is a 3. This is a 3.2. I rate the weight. It
Yeah.
may be interesting if weight was more a combination, an algorithmic combination of other factors, time per player, number, complexity of decisions, number of, I don't know, time to set up, and designer, I don't know, history, whatever. Contextual, with it had some kind of contextual measurement against other games, and where it wasn't just one person, it wasn't just a conglomeration of people saying, this is what I think the game weight is. It's saying, here are the factors that go into weight. Here are the more specific factors that people have input, and this is the weight rating that comes out of it. But I would imagine that's fairly complex calculations that would
For
be
sure.
pretty subjective anyway.
Definitely. I actually, as you were talking, I think like in theory, it might be helpful for more casual gamers to see like if they already like a game, if they went to that page on Board Game Geek and there was a section near the top or wherever that said people who like this game also like, and give a snippet of other games that are highly rated by the people who rate this game highly. Because even then, if you don't know the others, you don't need the point of comparison in advance. It can just help you get there. Like, oh, I really like Catan. What else should I play? And if you went to Board Game Geek and it told you other people who like Catan like these games too, that might actually be something really useful for people who aren't as like in deep in the hobby.
So, right, I know. We've gone down the dark path, you know what I'm
For sure.
saying? And that's okay, because it is a wonderfully twisted, maniacal, delightful path that we
This
are on.
hobby is an endless delight. And I honestly, I tell my friends that board gaming is the hobby most adults don't know that they need in their life.
I would totally agree with that. So, I mean, I think we all agree that weight is relative, that the value is only the number presented only has use with, individual context and reference. Um, and I would also point out that I think this could lead to a different discussion about the definition of weight, right? We can all look at it, and I'm not actively reading the chat, but I've seen a few things fly by where, how do we define weight? How do we define anything in this game? Like, even roll and write games. What is a roll and write game? What does that mean? What is it? What is Avenue a roll and write game because it has cards? And I've had this discussion many times. And
I'm still trying to make the thing that the Draft Mechanic podcast came up with a thing. They came up with the term rando writer, and
yeah,
I love it. And I've been trying to help them get that out into, because it works for all of them.
that's very true. But Board Game Geek is seen as a wonderful database for games. And we have a lot of very intelligent, educated, smart people in gaming in a variety of roles. But what we don't have is we don't have the Merriam-Webster for gaming. I would argue Board Game Geek is not that. And whether or not they should be or could be is a different discussion. But how do we define this? How do we define worker placement? How do we define drafting? How do we define these things? Some are more clear than others. Like I would suggest people would have an easier time defining drafting as opposed to worker placement. And then how do you define weight? Because even when we talk about weight, we're not all talking about the same thing. And
That's very
so
true.
if we were going to give that number any meaning at all, it seems like you'd have to rewind and start with, what does weight even mean? And can we all come together on a definition? And knowing this wonderful, delightful, diverse, wackadoo community, we would never agree on what the official definition of weight would be. So we may be hosed on that front, but we would have a lot of fun discussions trying to argue it out, I think.
Very true. So yeah, chat, we appreciate all of you kind of talking with each other in the midst of this conversation. Obviously, this is a bigger thing, and we don't necessarily disagree with what Tom said in the podcast, but we wanted to continue that conversation. If you all have not listened to that discussion, feel free to hop back into the Dice Tower podcast feed and make sure you subscribe because every other episode is co-hosted by the lovely Suzanne here, and it's real good. So make sure you are subscribed
you.
to the Dice Tower podcast. I know some people just listen to the podcast and some people just do the YouTube videos, but honestly, like, all of the content that people at the Dice Tower are putting out is so good. So I hope you all, if you don't listen to the podcast, that you'll hop over and click that subscribe button.
Thanks. The check is in the mail, girl. Thank you.
Oh gosh. Okay, so we're getting close to the end of our time. We might stick around a few extra minutes if need be, but this is the time for our Q&A session. So if anyone in the chat has any questions for Suzanne or myself, whether that's about Pi or Roll and Rights or Dice Tower West or more stuff about game weight, please feel free to drop them in the chat now, and we will answer any questions that you all have. I'm going to scroll back up through the chat. I know we had some questions before we even started the show. So I can see if, let's see. Oh, no, my chat only starts from when I popped it out. So nope, not going to see the stuff from the beginning right now. That's fine.
So let's see, Halo X30 is asking, when are Mandy and I going to do another video? And Mandy and I are behind on getting our monthly Q&As, live Q&As going, but we're going to be better about that. And then we have a video show that was a stretch goal in the Dice Tower Kickstarter. And thanks to the generosity of the Dice Tower audience, it was achieved. And so Mandy and I are actively working behind the scenes on getting this show off the ground. We are going to be live streaming right here on this channel. We're going to be live streaming playing app games with each other. So we may be playing apps against each other. We may be playing over like tabletop simulator or board game arena. You know, there's so many digital options for board games today, so we'll be playing those against each other. Sometimes we will have special guests playing with us. We might have say the designers in the chat answering questions as well, and giving away codes for apps and games to download them yourselves. So that is going to be kicking off probably late Marchish is what we're trying for. Of course, all things being equal, sometimes those get delayed. So that is coming up.
I'm super excited about that show, and I definitely 100% volunteer myself as a special guest anytime you want. And
you are like tops of that special guest list.
I love doing live content. I've said it a million times. I know not everyone likes doing live stuff, but it's my favorite. So I'm always down for a live video pretty much anytime. Let's see. David Breel in the chat asks, heaviest pie?
I would imagine that the weird like pie inception things that they're making now, where it's like a pie within a pie within a pie, could get pretty.
Oh, see, I know I've seen the cake pie thing where it's like cake, like a pie inside of a cake, like layered, and so then there's another.
I've seen that the pie caken. Yeah.
So they're doing pie in pie.
You make like a little teeny tiny pie and you bake it a little bit, and then you put it in another pie and you bake that, and then you put that in another pie and you bake that, and then you put that in another pie and you bake that, and it's like pie inception.
And I have to admit, well, like the fillings are great. Like the crust is kind of the best part. So that sounds amazing to me. Oh, my low carb diet. I want pie so much.
Oh, girl. It's all about carbs. Life.
There's a place here in Vegas called Cornish Pasty that has British pasties that are so good, and I miss them desperately.
Oh,
I'll eventually, I think after April, I'm gonna maybe allow myself a few carbs again. We'll see. Let's see. Jeff Rademacher asks, how do you like On Tour, Suzanne? He sees it in the back of your video shot there. On Tour just shipped to backers recently, and I got a copy as well, but I would love to hear your thoughts.
I am a fan. On Tour is great. It is, you're filling in the numbers. It has that element where you can fill in things kind of wherever, and then you have to make it work. And so then you hate yourself later for the choices you made early in the game. Welcome to has that, and Quinto has that. And that's an element of some of these games that I really, really enjoy. And On Tour has that. It's beautiful. It's simple. I am a big fan of it. I love it too. It's one of those ones that you can play with as many people as you kind of have components for. I did buy up and got like that box. First of all, heaviest pie, heaviest roll and write game. This thing is a chunk of lunk.
Yeah, because the box is way. I got it out and I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, it is a brick, and that's because each player gets a trifold board, dry erase board, which is wonderful production quality. my personal idiosyncrasies means I wish it was paper, because I have this travel kit that I do, and I laminate paper sheets and I carry it around with me, and it makes roll and writes very portable and easy to throw down. Right now, On Tour can never be that game for me because of its weight and its size. I can't condense it down because of those boards, which is my single complaint about it. And I know I'm uncommon in not loving more heavy, chunky components. So On Tour is a hit. It's delightful.
I had the exact same thoughts. I was like, oh my gosh, the boards are beautiful, but I can't put them in my quiver. Like,
Right? I know you and your, which by the way, Crystal, you really do need to do some kind of series or like regular, like as it refreshes, you really do need to do what's in Crystal's
what's in my
quiver.
quiver?
Yeah, exactly.
I should. I've actually had people mention that to me because I mentioned. So, for those who aren't familiar, Quiver is a company that makes these cases that are meant to hold board game cards and components, and they have come with a lot of different like types of dividers, and it's nicely padded on the inside so stuff doesn't get damaged. And it's baffling how much stuff you can fit into it. It looks like a quiver that you would carry arrows in size wise, and it's got a strap on it that you can sling over your back. But I can fit, I think the last time I counted when I packed it all up, I fit 17 different games in it. And like some of these games are very light, but not all of them. Like some of the components from games, you're just able to like condense down really easily. And yeah, I love it. So I think that's a really good idea. I actually wonder, I could maybe do a series of videos about like cool ways to pack your quiver with a whole bunch of different games. Like I got Sentient in there at one point and I didn't expect to be able to do that. And it would actually fit easier than I thought. So, all right, let's see. Do we have any other questions in the chat?
Somebody said asking about Fleet Dice. Have you played Fleet Dice?
I have not.
Oh, do you have Fleet Dice?
I don't.
Did you back it on Kickstarter? Okay, so it's delivering to Kickstarter. I don't know if it's on like store shelves yet, but it's Eagle Griffin Games, so it should, we'll see. Fleet the Dice game, Matt Riddle, Ben Pinchback, Ridback, the dynamic duo behind the whole Fleet thing. I am really liking Fleet the Dice game. If you like Ganshon Clever, I think Fleet the Dice game is something you should look at, because ultimately, with all the theme of the boats and the licenses and the fishing, and it is really about creating combos and using this income track to get these star actions, to get extra actions up here that give you an extra action over there. So that's the magic of Ganshon Clever, right? It's combos the roll and write game. Fleet the Dice game has a lot of that essence in it, plus a little bit of theme, and a little more going on even. So I am a big fan of Fleet the Dice game. I'm really enjoying it. And Crystal, maybe we can play it at Dice Tower West together.
It's so funny. I'm trying not to plan too many specific things, but I love doing these like add it to the like list of possibilities, because there's going to be so many awesome friends there and I just cannot wait. And I still cannot believe it's 2 weeks away.
And in the chat, Daniel's saying, Crystal, your real challenge is get Gloomhaven in a quiver.
Here's a fun fact. Crystal backed the second Kickstarter campaign for Gloomhaven, which shipped to backers in the fall of 2017. Like that's when that one shipped out. Yeah, because it wasn't last, or no, it was, yeah, it was not last year, last fall. I got my shipment in the fall of 2017 and I still haven't punched my game. I know. And what's funny is I'm going to love Gloomhaven and I know
you are.
Like, but I hate punching games. I'm one of those people, and I know I'm a rarity. Most people love punching their games. I don't understand. I hate it so much. And it's just a daunting thing because I think I might end up playing it solo, but I'm not sure. My husband's kind of interested in playing it, but I know it's a big, long thing. And honestly, it's just become too big for me to wrap my head around. And so it sits unpunched. I even bought an insert for it. I have an insert. And I have not punched the game. Somebody come over to my house and punch the darn game because I want to play Gloomhaven, and it's going to be a thing for me because I will have never played it. So everyone can make fun of me because I'm horrible. I backed a game on Kickstarter, and it has been sitting in my house unplayed for a very long time.
I am absolutely sure that nobody in this chat, including myself, has any unplayed games on their shelf.
Of course not.
Let alone in Shrink. None of us would ever have that, Crystal. So we are all judging you quite harshly right now.
I mean, honestly, I feel like I deserve it for this one specifically because it's not something I don't want to play. It's something I do want to play, and I just haven't gotten around to it. You know what? Honestly, I should do a live stream here on the Dice Tower where I literally punch the game live on the stream and then learn it and play it, just like spend a whole day Gloomhavening by myself.
I would let that run. I would watch that. I would just watch you punch the game and chit chat. That'd be fun. That would be good motivation for you to get it done too.
True. Because that way I can't like do the thing where you're like, you punch out some of it and then you're like, oh, I'm tired. I'm going to go get a snack and like leave it. Because that's me.
I'm so exhausted from punching out this game. I need to fuel myself.
I mean, I feel like if there was any game that's going to take multiple sessions to punch out, it would be this one, but I think I could probably manage.
I have confidence in you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we've gone a few minutes over. Sorry if we missed your questions in the chat. Suze, thank you so much for coming on and joining me. Eric had a prior commitment this evening, so he was not able to join me per usual. But honestly, this was lovely. I love Eric, but spending time with you is a delight.
An absolute wonderful evening with you. Thank you so much for having me. I am warning Eric that I'm eyeballing this chair because this is too much fun. So thank you so much.
And we have definitely, Eric and I have talked about bringing on a third chair for some of our episodes as well. We kind of wanted to get our feet under us after Tom decided to depart, but we've definitely talked about that. So if you want to come back, I would say you're welcome anytime for sure.
Love you. Thank you.
Hearts. All right. So thank you, chat, for joining us. We will be back potentially in 2 weeks. It will be the first night of Dice Tower West. So Eric and I are not 100% sure if we'll be able to stream, or if we do, how robust that stream will be. So there might not be an episode in 2 weeks, but obviously keep an eye on the Dice Tower's social media feeds and here on YouTube, and we will let that know. But until next time, I'm Crystal Pisano.
And I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And you've been watching Dice Tower Tonight. Thanks for watching. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. Eric and I are hoping to visit with you all, albeit briefly, in 2 weeks during the first night of Dice Tower West. Our show is supported by viewers like you. Thank you for cheering us on and sharing our content. And an extra special thank you to tonight's guest host, Suzanne. Dice Tower Tonight is produced by Eric and me with assistance from Tom Vassell, Roy Canaday, and Rob Searing. Really amazing but small pins shaped like insects provided by Tiny Epic Tack Ticks. Timothy Pinkham composed our theme. Hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at coolstuffinc.com. We love your feedback. Tell us what you think of the show on the Dice Tower Guild over at Board Game Geek, on Facebook or Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network by visiting dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all of us here at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining.